If there is one truth that can completely change the way you experience life, it is this: most of the stress you feel does not come from what happens to you, but from how you react to what happens. This may sound surprising at first because when we are upset, it is natural to blame the situation, the person, or the problem in front of us. We tell ourselves, "I am stressed because of my job," or "I am stressed because of what that person said." But if we look deeper, we begin to realize that the event itself is only one part of the experience. The reaction we create inside our minds is often what turns a challenge into suffering. Think about two people facing the exact same situation. One person becomes angry, frustrated, and overwhelmed. The other remains calm, thinks clearly, and handles the situation with patience. The event is the same, but the experience is completely different. Why? Because the difference is not in what happened. It is in how each person responded. Most people spend their lives reacting automatically. Someone criticizes them, and they immediately become defensive. Something goes wrong, and they instantly become anxious. Someone disagrees with them, and they feel personally attacked. These reactions happen so quickly that they feel natural. But over time, this habit creates constant stress because life will always present situations that challenge your emotions. The problem is not that difficult situations exist. The problem is that we often give those situations more power than they deserve. A single comment can ruin an entire day because we keep replaying it in our minds. A small mistake can create hours of worry because we refuse to let it go. Sometimes the actual event lasts only a few seconds, but our reaction keeps the stress alive for days, weeks, or even years. Imagine holding a hot coal in your hand. The longer you hold it, the more it burns you. Stress often works the same way. The event happens, but instead of releasing it, we keep holding on to it mentally. We replay it, analyze it, and relive it repeatedly. The stress is no longer coming from the event itself. It is coming from our attachment to it. This is why one of the most powerful skills you can develop is the ability to pause. Before reacting, take a moment. Before speaking, take a breath. Before allowing your emotions to take over, create a small space between the event and your response. That space may only last a few seconds, but it can completely change the outcome. A calm mind understands that not every thought requires action. Not every emotion requires expression. Not every situation requires an immediate reaction. Sometimes the greatest strength is simply remaining still long enough to think clearly. This does not mean becoming passive or pretending that nothing affects you. It means becoming intentional. It means choosing your response rather than allowing your emotions to choose it for you. There is a huge difference between reacting and responding. A reaction is automatic. A response is conscious. A reaction is driven by emotion. A response is guided by awareness. When you begin practicing this, you notice something remarkable. Situations that once felt overwhelming start losing their power. Criticism affects you less, delays frustrate you less, unexpected problems no longer ruin your entire day. The world around you may remain the same, but your inner experience changes dramatically. Life will always include challenges. People will say things you do not like. Plans will fail. Mistakes will happen. But you do not have to surrender your peace every time something goes wrong. You always have a choice in how you respond. The more you master your reactions, the more control you gain over your emotional world. Stress begins to lose its grip because you stop feeding it with unnecessary resistance. You stop turning every inconvenience into a crisis. You stop allowing temporary situations to dictate your state of mind, and slowly a deeper sense of calm begins to emerge. Not because life has become easier, but because you have become stronger. You realize that true peace does not come from controlling everything around you. It comes from learning to control what happens within you. That is the beginning of a calm mind, and it is one of the most important steps toward living with less stress and greater inner freedom. As you begin to understand that your reactions create much of your stress, another powerful lesson naturally follows. Stop taking everything personally. This simple shift in perspective can remove an enormous amount of emotional weight from your life. Many people spend their days feeling hurt, offended, frustrated, or anxious because they assume that everything people say or do is somehow about them. But in reality, most people's actions are reflections of their own thoughts, emotions, struggles, and experiences, not a reflection of your worth. Think about how often a single comment can stay in your mind for hours. Someone speaks sharply to you, ignores your message, disagrees with your opinion, or fails to meet your expectations. Immediately, your mind begins creating stories. Maybe they don't respect me. Maybe they are angry with me. Maybe I did something wrong without realizing it. You start carrying emotional burdens that may have nothing to do with reality. The human mind naturally tries to make sense of situations, but it often does so by snorts, placing itself at the center of the story. When someone behaves negatively, we assume it must be because of us. Yet, if you look carefully, you will notice that people are usually dealing with their own internal battles. They may be stressed, overwhelmed, insecure, disappointed, exhausted, or distracted. Their reaction is often more connected to what is happening inside them than to anything you did. Imagine someone carrying a heavy backpack filled with worries, fears, and frustrations. If they suddenly become impatient or speak harshly, it may not be because of you at all. It may simply be the weight they are carrying. Yet, many people absorb that behavior personally and allow it to affect their entire day. This does not mean that people never make mistakes or that hurtful behavior should always be excused. There are times when others act unfairly. There are times when criticism is harsh or unnecessary. But even in those moments, taking everything personally only gives more power to the situation. It allows someone else's behavior to control your emotional state. One of the signs of emotional maturity is learning to separate your self-worth from other people's actions. A person's opinion of you is not always an accurate reflection of who you are. Sometimes people judge you based on their own fears. Sometimes they misunderstand you. Sometimes they project their own insecurities onto you. If you allow every opinion to define your identity, you will constantly feel unstable. Think about how much energy is wasted trying to understand why everyone behaves the way they do. You replay conversations. You analyze expressions. You wonder what people meant by certain words. Meanwhile, your peace quietly disappears. A calm mind understands that not every situation requires endless analysis. Sometimes the healthiest response is simply accepting that people are human, imperfect, and often dealing with things you cannot see. There is also freedom in realizing that you do not need everyone to understand you. Not everyone will see your intentions correctly. Not everyone will agree with your choices. Not everyone will appreciate your efforts, and that is okay. Your value does not decrease simply because someone fails to recognize it. When you stop taking everything personally, your relationships become healthier as well. You become less defensive and more understanding. Instead of immediately assuming negative intentions, you become curious. Instead of reacting emotionally, you seek perspective. This creates more peace both within yourself and in your interactions with others. The truth is that carrying unnecessary emotional burdens only drains your energy. Life already presents enough real challenges without adding imagined ones. The more you understand that other people's actions often reflect their own inner world, the less you feel the need to absorb every negative experience. Over time, this mindset creates emotional freedom. You become less sensitive to criticism, less affected by rejection, and less overwhelmed by other people's moods. You stop allowing every comment or action to disturb your inner balance. You begin protecting your peace instead of constantly defending your ego. And in that freedom, something beautiful happens. You feel lighter, you feel calmer, you stop carrying emotional weight that was never yours to carry in the first place. You realize that not everything is about you, and that realization brings a deep sense of peace. Because when you stop taking everything personally, you stop giving away your emotional power. And that is a major step toward mastering a calm and stress-free mind. As you begin to stop reacting to everything and stop taking every situation personally, you discover another powerful principle that can completely transform your peace of mind. The power of silence and observation. In today's world, people often feel pressured to respond to everything. Every opinion demands a reply. Every disagreement feels like a battle to be won. Every criticism seems to require a defense. But one of the greatest signs of wisdom and emotional strength is realizing that not everything deserves your response. Many people create stress for themselves because they react too quickly. They speak while angry, make decisions while emotional, and respond before fully understanding the situation. In the heat of the moment, emotions take control, and later they regret what they said or did. The problem is not the situation itself. The problem is the lack of space between what happens and how they respond. A calm mind understands the value of pausing. It understands that silence is not weakness. In fact, silence often requires more strength than immediate reaction. Anyone can react emotionally, anyone can argue, defend, or attack, but it takes real discipline to remain calm, observe carefully, and choose your response wisely. Think about how many conflicts grow larger simply because people react too quickly. One angry comment leads to another. One misunderstanding turns into a major argument. What could have been resolved calmly becomes a source of stress and resentment. Often the damage is not caused by the original problem, but by the emotional reactions that follow. Observation changes everything. When you observe instead of immediately reacting, you begin to see situations more clearly. You notice details that emotions often hide. You understand people's intentions better. You become aware of your own emotional triggers. Most importantly, you give yourself time to think before acting. Imagine standing beside a lake. When the water is calm, you can see clearly beneath the surface. But when the water is disturbed, everything becomes blurry. The mind works in the same way. When emotions are intense, your judgment becomes clouded. But when you remain calm and observant, clarity begins to emerge. One of the most valuable lessons in life is understanding that you do not have to attend every argument you are invited to. Not every criticism requires an explanation. Not every misunderstanding requires a lengthy defense. Sometimes people are not looking for understanding. They are simply expressing their own frustrations. Responding to every situation often drains energy that could be used for more meaningful things. There is a quiet confidence in a person who can remain silent when silence is the wiser choice. They are not silent because they are afraid. They are silent because they understand that their peace is more valuable than proving a point. They know that reacting to every challenge only creates unnecessary stress. This does not mean avoiding difficult conversations or suppressing your thoughts. There are times when speaking up is necessary. There are times when action is required. The key is learning the difference between a situation that deserves your response and one that deserves your silence. Wisdom is not found in speaking all the time. Wisdom is found in knowing when to speak and when to remain still. Observation also helps you understand yourself more deeply. When you stop reacting automatically, you begin noticing patterns in your emotions. You see what triggers anger, frustration, fear, or insecurity. Instead of being controlled by those emotions, you become aware of them. That awareness gives you the ability to manage them more effectively. Over time, practicing silence and observation creates emotional stability. You become less impulsive and more thoughtful. You stop being pulled into unnecessary drama. You stop wasting energy on situations that do not deserve your attention. Your mind becomes calmer because you are no longer reacting to every small disturbance around you, and something remarkable begins to happen. The world around you may remain noisy, chaotic, and full of opinions, but your inner world becomes quieter. You feel less pressure to prove yourself. You feel less urgency to defend every decision. You become more comfortable simply observing, understanding, and moving forward with clarity, because sometimes the strongest response is no response. Sometimes the greatest victory is protecting your peace. And when you learn the power of silence and observation, you discover that calmness is not passive. It is a form of strength. It is the strength to remain centered, thoughtful, and in control of yourself even when everything around you is trying to pull you in another direction. That is the mindset of a truly calm and resilient person. As you learn to react less, take fewer things personally, and develop the habit of observation, you begin to understand one of the most important lessons in mastering a calm mind. Control your mind instead of letting your emotions control you. This sounds simple, but it is one of the greatest challenges every person faces. Emotions are powerful. They can influence your thoughts, your words, and your actions in a matter of seconds. If they are left unchecked, they can create stress, damage relationships, and lead to decisions that you later regret. Every human being experiences emotions. Anger, fear, frustration, disappointment, sadness, and anxiety are natural parts of life. The goal is not to eliminate emotions because that is impossible. The goal is to prevent emotions from becoming the leader of your life. A calm mind does not ignore emotions. It understands them, observes them, and chooses how to respond to them. Think about a moment when you were extremely angry. In that moment, everything felt urgent. You wanted to react immediately. You wanted to say something, prove a point, or defend yourself. But if you look back honestly, some of the decisions you regret most may have happened when emotions were in control. A few seconds of anger can create consequences that last for years. A moment of frustration can damage trust. A reaction made in fear can cause you to miss opportunities that could have changed your life. This is why emotional discipline is so important. Emotions are temporary, but the actions they inspire can have lasting effects. A mentally strong person understands this difference. They know that just because they feel something does not mean they must immediately act on it. Imagine emotions as waves in the ocean. Some waves are small while others are powerful and intense. If you fight every wave, you exhaust yourself. But if you learn how to ride the waves and allow them to pass, you remain balanced. Emotions work in the same way. They rise, they peak, and eventually they fade. The problem begins when people believe that every emotion requires an immediate reaction. One of the most valuable skills you can develop is learning to create space between feeling and action. When anger appears, pause. When fear arises, breathe. When frustration builds, step back for a moment. This pause may seem small, but it gives your wisdom an opportunity to catch up with your emotions. Many people spend years trying to change external circumstances while ignoring their inner world. They want life to be easier, people to be different, and situations to go their way. But true peace comes from developing mastery over your own mind. Because no matter where you go, your mind goes with you. If your mind is chaotic, stress follows you everywhere. But if your mind is disciplined, you carry calmness with you even during difficult situations. Controlling your mind also means questioning emotional stories before accepting them as truth. Fear often tells you that the worst outcome is certain. Anger convinces you that reacting immediately is necessary. Anxiety creates problems that do not yet exist. But a calm mind learns to ask, is this really true? And will this matter in the long run? These simple questions can prevent unnecessary stress and emotional suffering. The more you practice emotional control, the more resilient you become. Challenges still happen, but they no longer shake you as easily. Criticism still comes, but it does not ruin your day. Unexpected problems still appear, but you face them with greater clarity. Your emotional state becomes less dependent on external circumstances and more rooted in your own awareness. There is something incredibly powerful about a person who remains calm while others are losing control. Not because they are emotionless, but because they have learned to manage their emotions wisely. They understand that strength is not found in reacting loudly. Strength is found in remaining centered when life becomes difficult. Over time, this practice transforms your entire experience of life. Stress loses much of its power because you stop feeding it with impulsive reactions. Your relationships improve because you communicate with greater patience. Your decisions become wiser because they are guided by clarity rather than temporary emotions, and eventually you realize something profound. Peace is not created by controlling every situation around you. Peace is created by learning to control the mind within you. When your emotions no longer dictate your actions, you gain a level of freedom that many people spend their entire lives searching for. That freedom is the foundation of a truly calm, strong, and unshakable mind. As you continue learning how to control your reactions, stop taking things personally. Observe instead of reacting and manage your emotions. You reach another very important truth on the path to a calm mind. You must protect your energy and inner peace, because not every situation in life deserves your attention, and not every battle is worth your emotional involvement. Many people suffer not because their life is extremely difficult, but because they give too much of themselves to things that do not truly matter. Every day, Life presents countless situations that can pull your attention away from your peace. Arguments, opinions, negativity, unnecessary drama, misunderstanding, social pressure, and constant comparisons all compete for your mental space. If you allow everything to enter your mind, your energy becomes scattered, and when your energy is scattered, your mind becomes restless. No matter how strong you try to be, think about how often people get emotionally involved in situations that have no real benefit to their life. A small comment turns into a long argument, a meaningless opinion affects their mood for hours, a negative interaction from someone they do not even care about ruins their entire day. Slowly, these small disturbances accumulate, and the mind becomes overloaded with unnecessary stress. A calm and strong mind understands one important truth: your energy is limited. Just like physical strength, mental and emotional energy must be used wisely. If you waste it on every argument, every opinion, and every negative situation, you will have nothing left for the things that actually matter: your goals, your growth, your relationships, and your inner peace. Protecting your energy does not mean avoiding life or ignoring responsibilities. It means becoming selective. It means learning to decide what deserves your attention and what does not. Not every comment requires a response. Not every disagreement requires a debate. Not every situation requires your involvement. Sometimes the most powerful choice is simply to step back and let things pass. Imagine your mind as a peaceful garden. If you allow every disturbance, every weed, and every storm to enter without control, the garden slowly loses its beauty. But if you protect it carefully, remove unnecessary distractions, and allow only what nurtures growth, it remains calm and healthy. Your mind works the same way. Many people unknowingly invite stress into their lives by engaging in unnecessary arguments. They feel the need to prove themselves right, defend their opinions, or respond to negativity immediately. But in many cases, there is no real victory in these situations. Even if you win the argument, you often lose peace in the process. And that is not a real win. A mentally strong person understands that silence is sometimes more powerful than response. They understand that walking away from negativity is not weakness, but wisdom. They know that protecting their peace is more important than proving a point that does not add value to their life. This mindset allows them to remain emotionally stable even when surrounded by chaos. Another important part of protecting your energy is learning to set boundaries. Boundaries are not about pushing people away. They are about protecting your mental space. When you respect your own peace, you naturally become more aware of what you allow into your life. You start choosing relationships, conversations, and environments more carefully. There is also great strength in not reacting to everything that tries to disturb you. When you stop giving attention to negativity, it loses power over you. When you stop engaging in unnecessary drama, it fades away. When you stop feeding chaos with your energy, your mind becomes calmer and more stable. Over time, this habit transforms your entire emotional experience. You begin to feel lighter because you are no longer carrying the weight of unnecessary conflicts. You feel more focused because your attention is not constantly being pulled in different directions. You feel more in control because your peace is no longer dependent on external situations, and slowly something beautiful happens. You realize that protecting your energy is actually protecting your life, because your energy determines your thoughts. Your thoughts shape your emotions, and your emotions shape your reality. When you guard your energy wisely, you are not just avoiding stress. You are actively creating a more peaceful and balanced life. In the end, True calmness does not come from controlling everything around you. It comes from learning what to let in and what to keep out. And when you master the art of protecting your energy, you discover a level of peace that remains steady even when the world around you is not. That is the foundation of a truly calm and unshakable mind. At this stage of your journey toward a calm mind, you begin to understand that real peace is not something that happens by chance. It is something that must be trained, shaped, and developed through daily practice. This is why the final and most important principle is learning how to build a calm mind through consistent habits. Calmness is not a personality trait that some people are born with and others are not. It is a skill, and like any skill, it becomes stronger the more you practice it. Many people think they will become calm one day when life becomes easier, when problems disappear, or when everything finally goes according to plan. But life rarely becomes perfectly smooth. There will always be challenges, pressure, and unexpected situations. If you wait for the outside world to become peaceful, you may wait forever. Real calmness must be created from within, regardless of external circumstances. Think about how your mind behaves in daily life. If it is constantly exposed to stress, distraction, negativity, and reactive behavior, it naturally becomes restless. But if you intentionally feed it with awareness, patience, and reflection, it slowly becomes more stable. Just like the body becomes stronger through exercise, the mind becomes calmer through practice. One of the most powerful habits for developing calmness is mindfulness. This simply means being present in the moment instead of living in the past or future. Most stress comes from thinking about what has already happened or what might happen next. When you bring your attention back to the present, many of those worries lose their power. You start noticing life as it is, not as your imagination creates it. Another important habit is self-awareness. Many people react emotionally without understanding why they feel the way they do. But when you take time to reflect on your thoughts and emotions, you begin to see patterns. You understand what triggers your stress, what situations disturb your peace, and what thoughts create unnecessary fear. Awareness gives you control because once you see clearly, you can respond more wisely. Patience is also a key part of building a calm mind. In a fast-paced world, people want instant results, instant success, and instant solutions. But impatience often leads to frustration. When you learn to slow down and trust the process of life, you reduce unnecessary pressure on yourself. You stop rushing through experiences and start handling them with more clarity. Gratitude is another powerful habit that supports inner calm. When you focus only on what is missing, your mind becomes restless and dissatisfied. But when you take time to appreciate what you already have, even in small ways, your emotional state shifts. Gratitude does not remove challenges, but it changes how you experience them. It reminds you that even in difficult moments, there is still something to be thankful for. Physical habits also support mental calmness. Proper rest, movement, and balanced routines directly affect how your mind functions. A tired and unhealthy body often leads to a restless mind, but when you take care of your physical well-being, your mental stability naturally improves. Everything is connected more deeply than people realize. The most important thing to understand is that calmness is built through repetition. One day of mindfulness will not change your life. One moment of patience will not make you permanently peaceful. But when these actions become part of your daily life, they slowly shape your identity. You begin to respond differently, think differently, and feel differently. Over time, you notice a major shift. Situations that once disturbed you no longer affect you as strongly. You become less reactive, more centered, and more in control of your inner world. Life does not become problem-free, but your mind becomes stable enough to handle problems without losing peace. And in that stability, you discover something very powerful. Calmness is not something you find outside. It is something you build inside day by day through awareness, discipline, and practice. When these habits become part of who you are, your mind becomes your greatest source of strength. And no matter what life brings, your inner peace remains unshaken.